What's going on, boxing fans? Welcome back to another preview and prediction video with myself, Mike Madlab Iorano. This one is Teofimo Lopez versus Josh Taylor. Good fight. Really, really good fight. I wish it would have happened a little bit sooner. There's a lot of things going on both sides that can kind of hinder the outcome of this fight. Either way, I'm going to discuss them in this video. A lot of people are discussing the stylistic matchups, who's faster, who's stronger, who's a true 140. I'm going to talk about some of the little detours on the streets that people really aren't dialing in, looking into, and this can ultimately be the deciding factor on who you decide you think is going to win the fight. When you look at this fight in the whole, like I said, I wish it was a little bit sooner. On one side, you got Josh Taylor, who has not fought in quite a while. On a little bit of a layoff. His last fight against Jack Cottrell, a lot of people can say that he lost that fight. And I can too. I actually wanted to go back before I did this video to watch it again and just kind of skim through it and really see it again to make sure that was my deciding factor. And I watched it again, and sure enough, I do think Josh Taylor did lose that fight. So then when you take that and you take his layoff, you got to wonder, well, how is he going to come, back into this fight? You have another issue with Josh Taylor is that he's been dealing with plantar fasciitis. He is a big 140. He does cut a lot of weight. So I don't know if any of you had plantar fasciitis before, but that's a big deal. That is a very, very painful situation. And when you have to cut weight and you have to run and you have to do all these things on your feet, how are you going to do that with plantar fasciitis? So I'm kind of curious to see what he's going to look like on the scale. I'm kind of curious to see how is he going to cut this weight? Which other avenue is he going to take? There's something to be said about the plantar fascia. If it rips completely, like the pain kind of goes away. But at that point in time, it doesn't matter. You're still dealing with plantar fasciitis during a camp, when you have to cut weight, when you have to road run, when you have to do all these things, which is predominantly on your feet. So that's an interesting thing you got to absorb there. How is his weight cut going to go? How is he cutting this weight? How is he conditioning with a situation like that, which is extremely painful? On the other side, you got a guy, Teofimo Lopez, who is a very good 135er. Obviously, we all know that he beat Lomachenko. He bumps up to 140. He doesn't look that good. Now, a lot of people say, well, the 5 pounds really isn't that big of a deal. It is a big deal. In boxing, 5 pounds is a big deal. If somebody loses 5 pounds and you're looking at them, you can probably tell they lost in 5 pounds in their face and stuff like that. But in boxing, it is a big deal. And there's something that you have to think about is maybe that power's not translating at 140. Maybe he's not translating at 140. And that's a very, very real thing. So him as well. I mean, he had a situation in a fight where it was a controversial, win with him. So both of these guys are coming in with a lot of question marks. When you're looking at them, from a divisional perspective, from the actual 140 division, you gotta say that Josh Taylor is far and away the guy. He beat Regis Prograis. I mean, that's a big, big, big fight to win at 140. He did it in a big way. And you got a guy now in Teofimo Lopez, who comes up to 140, and he hasn't looked good here yet. So on that paper perspective part of it, you're looking at Josh Taylor like this is his fight to win or lose. And I actually do agree. It is kind of his fight to win or lose, because the thing with Teofimo Lopez is this. The kid is a great athlete. When this kid is mentally wired together, he's very, very hard to beat. The problem I do have with him is, if you remember, and if you haven't seen it, you could probably find it on YouTube. At the end of one of his fights, he actually asked if he still had it. The cameras caught him saying that right after the fight. Do I still have it? Meaning, do I still have the skill? Am I still the same guy? Later, he was questioned about it. He didn't know there were hot mics around him. And, he said, well, I know how to sell myself. I did that for people to have something to write about. That's not what that was. He really, really, in his mind, does not have that confidence in himself that he is a true 140, that he can fight at 140 yet. He doesn't. And a Teofimo Lopez it is unraveled is not a good Teofimo Lopez. And nobody really is, right? I mean, I don't care how good of a boxer you are. I don't care how good of an athlete you are, and anything that you do, if you're not wired together right up here, if you're not completely confident up here, it's not going to translate in your physical. You're going to be shy. You're going to be gun shy. You're not going to pull the trigger enough. You're not going to have that. You're not going to open up a lot. You're going to be kind of shelled up. So those are all real things when mentally you're just not completely confident going into a fight in a division that you really haven't ultimately had success yet. So that's an issue for me with Teofimo Lopez. Another thing is, listen, we know he's always been a confident guy. He's always had these interviews that have been, but I think he's trying to talk himself into his confidence a little bit. If you watch some of his interviews, they are a little bit different. He doesn't give Josh Taylor any accolades. I mean, when they ask him, what does Josh Taylor do good? What do you have to fear? He says, nothing. This is what I do. I'm creating history. But like it's almost like he's trying to convince himself. He's trying to talk himself into this fight to convince himself, like, look, man, like you belong at 140. You're going to beat this guy. Josh Taylor's not really having much of it. I mean, you could see he's getting irritated with him. You could see he walked out of a couple interviews and stuff like that. I don't know what all that's about. When you fight Teofimo Lopez, you got to expect him to try to, pluck your feathers a little bit. But all in all, like that one thing that I heard on the microphone after that fight really did disturb me. That's the last thing you want to hear from a fighter. I mean, there's some things I've heard from fighters in corners in between rounds and stuff like that, but at the end of the fight, when you hear, do I still have it? You say that like somewhere else. You say it on the phone the next day. You do it in the privacy of dinner. You don't do it as soon as that fight is over when there's hot mics around. And he got caught doing it, and he blamed it that he did it for everyone to write stories and put it in the headlines and stuff like that, which is a complete fallacy. This is a guy who, when he goes to bed at night, I mean, listen, you got to be a confident guy to step into the ring. But when he goes to bed at night and he's by himself and them lights are shut off, I really do truly believe that he questions himself at 140 if he has what he has at 135 at 140. Personally, for me, I don't think that's his weight division. I think he's got the body somatotype to be there, but I just don't think that the weight I don't think the power translate. I think the speed's always going to translate because he's obviously that, his frame, he's very athletic. I just don't think like the power translate and his game doesn't translate that way. And the reason why I say I'm saying translate is because if you really watch him, he doesn't utilize his jab all that much. Teofimo Lopez at 135 does not really utilize his jab all that much. This guy uses his power. This guy throws majority, I believe it's like 75 to 78% power punches are coming out of his shotgun. So he's not one to work behind the jab. If he was a guy that utilized his jab, utilized space, kept his distance, played a little cat and mouse, pick and prodded at you, I'd say, okay, yeah, he's coming up to 140 now. He's going to be able to utilize that speed. He's going to be able to pick and prod at him a little bit, just touch him. He's going to be able to touch him and score. He doesn't fight like that. That's not his style. His style is to utilize his power, to utilize his power punching. And that's because at 135, he had such success with that. On the flip side of that, you got a guy, Josh Taylor, now who also does that, who throws over 80% power punches, who doesn't work really behind the jab, who's the bigger guy, who's the more seasoned guy at 140. So these guys ultimately are going to sit in the pocket and trade with each other. There's going to be no technical, tapping each other and picking and prodding and utilizing the real estate of the ring. There's going to be a lot of power being thrown in there. The majority of these punches that these guys throw are power. So now, on that side, who do you go with? Do you go with the 135er where you don't think his power is really translating up at 140? Or do you go with the guy who's at 140, who hasn't fought in a year, who had a controversial win, who's dealing with plantar fasciitis, who's talking about going up, to 147, which I don't think it's a good idea, but who do you go with there? Like, who do you go with there? Like, I don't see Josh Taylor going up to 147 either. Like, that's a huge jump for him. I don't think he could crack with those guys up there. So he's kind of in no man's land himself. But, at 140, this is a guy who's so seasoned at 140. He's fought so many guys at 140. He's so proven at 140 that, it really all depends on, to me, like at weigh-ins, what is he going to look like? Is he going to be able to shed this weight? Did he have a full camp? Is that plantar fasciitis bothering him? Is the layoff going to affect him? That fight that he had against Jack Crutchell, is that the way he's going to fight? Like, so there's question marks on that side. But the technical question marks that haven't been answered. I mean, Josh Taylor has answered the bell at 140. We've seen him do his work at 140, and it's top level. We haven't seen Teofimo Lopez really do much at all at 140. So there's still a question mark there. So I got to go with Josh Taylor in this fight. Like I said, just their styles. If I knew that Teofimo Lopez was a really, really savvy, slick, technical fighter where he just and he just works behind the jab, then I could see him kind of utilizing his speed, picking prod and picking his spots, getting in, getting out, utilizing the real estate of the ring. And I say, yeah, this guy could absolutely score his way. He's just a more technical boxer. He's faster, which he is. He's more athletic, which he is. But this is a guy who comes in and just works behind power punches because he's so dialed into that 135 division that he's trying to translate it up to 140. I don't think it's going to translate for him. I still think it's going to be a good fight. I think the question marks on Josh Taylor's side is really important to see how successful he is. And I also think the question marks on Teofimo's side is also just as important as far as, is he there mentally? Does he really believe he belongs at 140? Is he going to change things up a little bit and maybe utilize his athletic ability and work behind the jab a little bit? Or is he going to just try to come in and bang with him? Like, there's a lot of question marks around this fight that remain to be answered. I still think it's going to be a good fight, but ultimately I do got to go with Josh Taylor for the win here. Guys, if you do enjoy my breakdowns, please like, subscribe, comment below. Tell me if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me. We have the last 2 weeks, we had Devin Haney by decision, although I do not agree with that. We hit plus 420 Wood by decision, and now we jump in on here with Josh Taylor. If you do like mixed martial arts, you do like breakdowns, you do play DraftKings, you like to place wagers during the weekend, go over to the MadLabMMA.com. You can get my full breakdowns on every fight, every week. We do every possible angle you can imagine to give you guys the best possible angle to do whatever you want with it. Either learn about the fights, learn about who's fighting. If you'd like to place wagers on them, I have wagers in there. If you play DraftKings, the DraftKings leans are in there. We have a really good private Discord with a private community that we all watch the fights together. I do a live stream before the fights. I do a private podcast breaking down the fights, written breakdowns, everything you need to know. We're also having a pretty good giveaway this weekend, so go to the site, check it out, themadlabmma.com, and I will probably be doing a reaction video to this fight, so stay tuned for that. Once again, I appreciate you guys for listening.